Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries presents Friday Night Bible Study. Our Friday night Bible studies are held in the United Kingdom, Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, and in the state of New Jersey. Welcome to Friday Night Bible Study.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Friday Night Live. I am super excited for tonight's topic, which is going to be resilience. Okay, we're going to take some time tonight to look at the lives of two famous Israelite dreamers, Joseph and Daniel, to see how they exemplified resilience in their life. So, before we dig into the scripture, I do just want to break the ice here. And if you're in the chat, feel free to answer. But I want to know, how was everyone's week? How was everyone's week this week? How are we feeling? How are we doing?
Yeah, my week was good. My week was good.
You're right. That's good.
Not bad. Can't complain.
I'm good. I'm good that we can't complain. I will definitely say my week was a little bit harder. I have a struggle time adjusting to the time of darkness. My tire pressure has been low all week. And I'm like, dang, I hate this weather. Like, I hate this time. But we're going to go over resilience today. And so hopefully by the end of this, I can be more resilient. You can be more resilient. And we can figure out how to get through this time of darkness. Okay. So my moderator is already on it. I want to start off the conversation by delving into Isaiah, because I think this is an excellent framework to understand where our source comes in order to be resilient as a people within Israel. So, moderator, I would love if we could turn to the second slide so we can dig a little deeper into what Isaiah had to share. And do I have a volunteer to read this from my lovely panel?
I can. You can go ahead.
Okay.
All right. The power of the source. Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increaseth strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint.
Man, what a scripture. I love reading through Isaiah. But the reason why I chose this scripture was the first part is just reminding that our God is an everlasting God. So we get our strength from here. And just to kind of keep it real, when it comes to resilience, I think about this term I kind of want to coin, like the Job era. Like when you're going through your Job era and you're just getting hit time and time again, you got a visual, what am I doing wrong? At this point, what am I doing? Because life is just hitting you and you don't understand why. How do we move past that? How do you still have hope? That's what that scripture brings to mind for me. But panel, would love to know your thoughts.
I think for me personally, sorry, Cameron. I think for me personally, when I think about that scripture, I find that it's important to know as Israelites that our strength does come from the true and living God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. But I think to take it a step further, it's like, how do we access, that power and that strength? And that's through obviously educating yourself on the doctrine and partaking in his laws, his statutes, his commandments. But most importantly, like, faith without works is dead. So you also have to work in order to build up his house, whether that be through teaching like we are here today, whether that be through just doing anything that you can to labor for the glory of your God. And through that is how we access that strength. So he's not just there, to just give handouts. We have to follow the procedure in order to access everything that he can potentially give us.
Man, we're starting off hot, y'all. Fire's in the chat already for Teacher Tamar. I love what you shared, Teacher Tamar, because I think sometimes it's very easy to be like, you got it, girl. Like, just thug it out, tough it through it. Like, you'll get through this. But the question is, like, how? How do you do this? What is the actual work that is required to build up that resilience? So I'm really excited to dig in that today. Anyone else? Samson, I see your mic coming off.
Cameron,
Cameron.
you can go for it, man. You seem like you're ready.
I love it. The enthusiasm. I love it. Go ahead, Cameron.
Sweetheart, you know that. I like to say two things. Ditto to Tim's point. One thing about Isaiah, um, I just feel like the work, like many.
Cameron, you're going a little in and out there.
Hello, can you hear me better now?
We can hear it now. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I was just saying that Isaiah, like a lot of other scriptures, is really pregnant. A lot of like meanings that you can come with. And also another thing I love about Israel is that even like the basics, like a newcomer, you'll still be using the same lessons like faith. It'll still be relevant when you read Isaiah and even Matthew, the New Testament and the Old Testament. And you see that culture. But I was just thinking, one thing. I know it might be going to random, but I was thinking about resilience and like animals, and I was thinking about like sea turtles. And sea turtles, they live a long time, right? However, when they're born, it's just a nightmare. I ain't gonna lie. When the eggs are hatching, they see child time for real. Like they eat everything up. But you gotta be resilient. You born like as an Israelite, so you get baptized or whatever you want is true. There's a burden. They'll distract you. They'll take you off that beach. But if you make it to the sea and make it to your adulthood, you can live like over 100 years. What was the not fine name? He would live 150 years or something. I know it's true, but I'm just saying like there's a lot of like fruit with that, just being resilient and keeping the faith.
Yeah, you're speaking to the former environmental science major, Emmy Cameron. Like animals are so resilient. Unfortunately, I had to do a paper one time about the resilience of salmon. So weird, but I love what you said. It's like you have to battle in the beginning in the life of a sea turtle, but you see the kind of like blessings, if you will, that come out on the other end. It reminds me of Job. Like we'll probably reference Job a lot of times in this session, but I just think about how hard that trial and tribulation that he went through, how much he lost, but his latter end was greater than the beginning. So love that analogy. Samson, do you remember your point?
Yeah, I do. What I wanted to bring up was in terms of how you could test your resilience and build on it. I personally think and recognize that you can't really build on your resilience without actually taking action and going through those motions. You can reference the turtles. We always reference Job as well. But the first steps are going to be getting up and going, taking those first steps and moving with faith. It might not always be right. It might not always work out, but that's when it's really tested, and that's when those resilience is built. It's about rather than just taking action, how long you can last in motion, if anything. So I'd leave it at that, though, if anything.
I love that, Samson, because you kind of take the perfection side of it out. It's like as long as you're getting through, sometimes the way that we like thug it out, that's the term that's coming to mind, isn't always the most efficient way. But like you said, as long as you're being consistent and at least trying, put in that action, like teacher Tamar said, the endurance can kind of get you through. So I love that point. I
You know
see a
what?
lot of fires in the chat. Go ahead, Samson.
As you mentioned that, it's the thug it out part. I think it comes with it. Although it might not be, it's like you might not want it to be that case, want it to be that way, but it comes with it. Sometimes for you to actually push and build that resilience, you gotta thug it out and push yourself through.
And I actually think that's really helpful to have that mindset going in that life is not going to be easy. As maybe not comforting as that can sound, I think it at least allows you to prepare for what's to come. So I love that point as well, kind of expect to thug it out, especially in the life as an Israelite, and maybe you can have the tools equipped to prepare. So I love the conversation that's happening. Again, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of fires in the chat. So let's keep the energy up and going. And moderator, can we move to our next slide, please? So there are many, many, many definitions of resilience. I have some here just for you guys to kind of take in and digest. But to my panel and to my audience members, I want to know what comes to mind when you hear the word resilient. What types of people, stories, definitions, even what comes to mind when you hear the word resilient?
I think of I think of against all odds, either good or bad, and I think of I think of all right. Some people in the Bible. I think of Job, Hannah, and even just like in real life, I think of like athletes, like boxers, LeBron James, things like that. People that like go against the naysayers and go against everything that's going against them, literally, and still prevail. So I think of all that really.
Hey, I have to add something. Not to be too on the nose, but like I feel like I think of Elder Shyrock really, because like I feel like he had to go through a lot. Because he's not even from like our headquarters in Toronto, Canada. He's not even from there, but yet he started a whole nation. Like you know what I'm saying? Like he came from another continent, and I don't know how crazy. I'm like some people can't even cross the border to like Mexican U.S. This man flew over to Canada and started a whole nation, and now we're like what almost 40 years strong. I'm just saying like he had to go through a lot, and I feel like was he one of the definitions of resilience. Like teaching and setting things up and spiritual and physically. This probably was a lot of like startup we had to work just to get to where we are now. But yeah.
I 1000% agree, Jeremiah and Cameron. And we had another comment here earlier about resilience reminding someone of being able to weather the storms and come out stronger. And I see that in both of the examples that you guys shared. Like Elder weathered the storms, like Jeremiah said, against all odds. Like, who even heard about Israel 40 years ago? I remember when I was growing up telling people I'm an Israelite, what's that? And then you have to think like, how do I explain like what I've been all my life? Like we can start from the name of God, but you're still going to be lost. Like what? But we see like generations of Israelites have now come out of the work that Elder has done. So I think that's an excellent, excellent example. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I would say that for me, even to broaden it from Elder and Job and stuff, I would say the God of Israel is definitely like major, 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 just an example of resilience because time and time again, historically and even in the present day and age, we continuously turn our back on him. And he has pushed through from wiping us away. And even in Chris's lesson down here recently, he spoke about even Moses being that person of reason, that voice of reason for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to not just wipe us away and kill us after, building the calf and turning our back on him yet again. And even the present day and age, like now we can say that is our God. Now he's, doing miracles for us in our lives, and he's raining down blessings upon us and having mercy upon us, just continuously going through trials and tribulations with his people, with us, and yet still sticking by us and working through whatever hurdles we may go through.
I love that, Tamar. And I'm like, as you're saying that, I'm just thinking of like a parent that has such a bad, disobedient child. They've had to kick out the house multiple times, and yet they still love them. They still try to care for them. Like, God of Israel really is the number one resilient being. So it definitely allows us, I think, to be super appreciative. So I love that. I love that. Samson, Abby, what comes to mind when you hear the word resilient?
Uh, I'm not gonna lie, quite a bit came to mind as you guys were going on. Like one, when you said Moses, I was like, "Geez, oh, that guy, he went through a lot." Like you want to put a poster of someone resilient, I give that to, to Moses for sure to start. Um, another thing that stands out is creation in general. It's always there, going through different types of seasons of the time, despite whatever is living within uh, the beautiful masterpiece of the God of Israel's. Part of me went to martial artists, whatever things they do, whether it's training or they're preparing for tournaments, or if it's just living a humble lifestyle or an exaggerated one through like UFC or something like that. There's a lot of resilience that has to stand there. But uh, again, it really comes from really testing your environment and weathering the storm.
I love that, Samson. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so deep. I love the creation aspect 'cause it just makes me think about when the winter seasons come and there's no food and the animals literally have to fight for their life. Like, Yeah, resilience really is weathering the storm. It's absolutely weathering the storm. I love it. I love it. And then Abby,
Um, I think um, when I think about resilience, a lot of the I was hearing everyone's points, and especially when Tamar was saying like the God of Israel is a very big one for sure. I think as well as I heard somebody bring up the point of being resilient against, I guess, a competitor or people that are naysayers. And I think it's not an easy task, but I think it's a lot easier when than being resilient against yourself. As in, a lot of the times we have patterns and behaviors that we can't help but do, and we try to break out of it, or sometimes don't even know that we're doing it. And to be able to be resilient against your, I guess, your darker side or negative side or other side, that overcoming those challenges with yourself in order to do better aside from competition outside of yourself, I think is one of the biggest like parts of being resilient. You know, yeah.
no, I so agree, and I love that. And in my opinion, I feel like some of the battles that you have inwardly can be some of the hardest ones to experience, as you said. And I think that's why it's so important to always have self-awareness as an Israelite. That is so key because if you don't know yourself, how can you do better? So I love that point, Abby. We've had a lot of good comments in the chat coming in, but I want to go ahead and dig into the scripture. So, moderator, I'm going to ask you to pull up slide number 4. So, A Tale of Two Dreamers. I want to start off by comparing Joseph and Daniel's beginnings because I think what happens in the formative years of your life can really help determine your resilience later. So, as we're reading through these scriptures, my audience members, I just kind of want you to share what comes up for you. What are you noticing that these two men have in common that are different that you think might help them later on in their journeys? And can I get a reader, please?
I can read it for you.
Beautiful.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf.
Wow. So I'm going to stop right here. I think for me, one of the biggest things that we definitely see in the beginning is that favor that Joseph has. And unfortunately, that favor that he had with Jacob, later turned Israel, made him almost an outcast in this sense. And it makes me think back to what Jeremiah said about against all odds. When you're kind of alone and isolated, what does that do for your resilience later on? But panel, audience, any thoughts here?
I would say I agree. I definitely see this I guess image of him being set apart, but it also just shows, I guess, like the light and the brightness that shines within him, because we can see it in today's day and age as we go to school and we're in the workforce and we're just, I don't know, in the land that's not our own. Because we are the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's children, because we were chosen and, a part of his flock, and dedicated our lives to the doctrine, we can see that sometimes there's people that just do not wish you well. There's people that see that you're different and don't like it. And we can see they actually hated him. But I think even when I was reading that, also it just shows, like, how people say, like, don't tell your business to everyone because not everyone wishes you well. It's like you had a dream that, you were above and you're telling everybody like, hey, I'm just the messenger, and everyone immediately shoots the messenger. No one wants him to thrive. No one wants him to be great. It just shows like sometimes you really have to be selective. You have to protect your circle. You have to protect your peace. You have to protect your journey, because sometimes when you just tell your business to any and everyone, it actually off routes your journey. Like sometimes bad mind could actually have a negative effect in your life. So it not only showcases like be selective. Not everyone wishes you well, even though it's your brethren and it's your family and it's people that should want the best for you. You would think, oh my gosh, Joseph, like pat on the back, great. They said they hated him even more because of his dream. So I think these are just like little life lessons to learn that sometimes when your light shines bright, like you can't be associated and just give all your pearls to everyone.
I love that, Tamar. I love that notion of being selective with what you share, because I do think it's key when dealing with resilience. Like, one thing that I kind of always hesitate with, like for work or even with friends, is sometimes telling them when I'm going through stuff, because what I don't want them to be like is, I'm so sorry to hear that, girl. I'm gonna pray for you. Like, please no, please keep your prayers over there. We don't do that. Like, stay over there. And so it's like I have my core group of family members of people in Israel that I share my trials and tribulations with, because we're aligned on the same source, we're aligned on the same God. So I can be resilient with them. So I love that. Keep your circle tight. Make sure the right people are there to support you during this time. Because one thing that I love about resilience, even though it's really hard when you're in deep in it, is that it allows for deeper relationships to form. And sometimes it allows for the wrong ones to go away and spread, which we kind of see here with Joseph. Any other thoughts before we get into the next slide?
I'd like to add, um, you know, the thing. Okay, so you know, I guess like it's funny when you talk about resilience. It's just sometimes like people say, like as you said, teacher Rachel, about like the battle within yourself. But I feel like when you be yourself, I feel like you win some battles out of that because people have to wear masks and just change them, conform to other people. Because I think Joseph could easily be like, "Oh, I don't have dreams anymore." As soon as he saw his brothers hating on him for whatever reason, they just jealous. They grown men too. Like it's crazy. Like, go do something else. You know, that's my opinion. But anyways, like it's just something about resilience, and also like what teacher Tamar was saying, how like in the workforce, I feel like you gotta be resilient to even like serve your God too, like on the Day of Atonement, at them, even like on Saturdays, you try, how like hard it is to keep like for some jobs just to get off on Saturday, like you literally have to like fight tooth and nails. I had to in the past fight tooth and nail. And then I'll be scared to throw him on job security, but I need to have faith in the God that He's gonna have my back if I'm trying to worship Him. And I feel like that's part of the resilience that will actually help strengthen that resilience, you know. Um, yeah.
I love that point that you made, Cameron, especially how resilience has to be built into the life of the Israelite. There was something that Felicia Singleton said that was a comment, but it was saying, yes, you must enjoy your own company and like yourself to be able to spend a lot of time with self and be resilient. I think that's huge in the life of an Israelite. I know all of us have grown up as children being Israelites, and it's like, when Christmas time would come and they would have all the parties, I remember every single year they would do that Polar Express with those little hot cocos and all the treats and stuff. I would have to get sent to the library and do my little games in there. Like, as a child, that was resilience. That was definitely being isolated, being an outcast, and being alone. But what I loved about what Auntie Felicia mentioned and kind of highlights here is that resilience builds. It allows you to get stronger. And I know me personally, having those experiences as a young child, I'm quite comfortable being alone because I had to, unfortunately. I love it. I love it. Alrighty. We're going to go ahead and go to the next slide, moderator.
Can
I
I add
believe.
a thought real quick?
Go ahead, Cameron.
Just when you said that, it reminded me of the creed.
Ooh,
How it's
yes.
a burden. You don't even know this knowledge. You know.
Romans 9, 1-5. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a burden to carry this, but how can we move past that, or you have the tools to get through that burden? I love, love, love that connection.
Yeah. For sure.
Slide 5, Elder Brian. Alrighty. Teacher Tamara, you get to read this one?
Yep, I'll read it for you. And his brethren said to him, Shall thou indeed reign over us? Or shall thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying.
Yikes. I feel like this speaks to everything Teacher Tamar said. But what I also think is interesting is the different responses that people had to Joseph's dream. And what I kind of want to take away from this is, as a nation, we definitely want to grow. And so I think it's important for us to remain open to receiving in any and all ways, even when that message is hard to swallow. Because you see it here, if my little sister came up and said, Rachel, I had a dream and you were bowing down to me in this style, I would be like, I would kind of be looking like, what are you thinking right now? Why are you dreaming that? Like that's instinct. But how can we kind of set ourselves up to think with a growth mindset and be open? Because the one thing that I do love about Israel Jacob is he observed it. He like takes in the saying as he kind of reprimands Joseph, but he does take it in. Did I hear
I would
someone
say
else?
I would say even to add on to that, like you said, just having that mindset to kind of accept those things, because you're right, like basic logic would be side eye, like you're younger than me, you're my family. Even in a village or in a community, if the youngest of them is, oh well, I'm gonna be ruler over all you guys and you guys are gonna be bowing down to me, it doesn't come off well. But it's in the same format of us being what am I trying to explain? Us being not necessarily lost, but having some type of knowledge of this doctrine. And obviously, we had Pharisees back in the day, and then Jesus the Christ basically being like, "Hey, I'm here to guide the people," and whatever. Everybody being like, side eye once again. Like, how do we get to that stage of having, maybe I would say, spiritual awareness and having like the wisdom to accept those things? And what do we accept, what don't we accept? Like, how do we get to a state of having good spiritual selection in our reactions? And maybe that comes with fasting and prayer and strengthening our connection with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and really pouring into him so that we can receive that knowledge. But that's just very much a mind trip that just came to me.
I like that point too, because I feel like how you say, spiritual awareness. I think we all need to know our strengths and our weaknesses, and we know who has certain tangibles that's suited for A, teaching, or suited for B, going out and teaching other people that's interested in trying to learn about the God of Israel or whatnot. And even just like besides teaching, we have what culture, decorating, anything as far as outward public relations on social media, stuff like that. Like what's good, like what's your tangibles? And I think for that dream, I want to say Joseph's brethren, or his brothers and sisters, they're thinking like, I don't know, they're hating, but they just need to. I feel like they should have understood that he was just special. Like Joseph was just special. All right, like we're all special, but some people may be a little bit more special than others, or they're, what I'm saying? It's just like he's special. I think that's what they should have took from that, and then called it a day. And maybe there's something coming down the line in the future, whether that's leadership or leading this family or whatnot. But they should have just took from that was Joseph is special, And I think that's what we should all think about if someone was to come to us in a dream or whatnot, saying that this is whatever. Like that's how they should have interpreted it. Like in my opinion,
No, this is such a good discussion, Teacher Tamar and Jeremiah, because it's like it really makes you think and reflect. Like, one, Jeremiah, like you're saying, like we have to think big picture as a nation, and I know that is so hard because we're humans, we have egos. Like, I don't know how I would feel if my parent like openly was like, "This is my favorite. I'm giving you special coats and all this," and your mom was the one that I really loved and I didn't get tricked into. Like, that would be hard to digest. It would, but when you look at the ending of Joseph, the type of power that he had and what that meant for an Israelite man to have that back in the day, that's something where perhaps in that scenario it could be like, if this dream is true and Joseph is going to acquire some power, maybe this could benefit the whole. And he's that special person that it needs to work through. But like you said, Teacher Jamar, that openness is hard. And I think it's really hard because the God of Israel has he has a special thing for the underdog, the people that we do not expect. I always say, if you're not equipped in certain talents in the nation, don't knock yourself out, because the God of Israel, we've seen it with David, who was a young boy, Moses, who had the speech thing. Like, he has a thing for the ones that seem the least. He loves that. That's what all Israel is about. So, how can we remain open is really hard. And my personal tangible Jeremiah has been to kind of shut my mouth so I don't murmur like my forefathers and kind of observe. That's the current thing that plays in my mind. I don't know if anyone else has any tools, but I think it's a really, really great question. I do.
Yeah, I also think that I think it's also about having a balance as well. I think between like Teacher Tamar said and Jeremiah, they're saying about just knowing who you are overall, um, like knowing your culture, knowing the fact that there are people that are special, there are people that can do this and they can do that, people that can interpret dreams, or people that can, they know things and other people don't know things the way they know things. Like, just to understand that you're part of something special and you will see things that are special, will help you open your mind even more. And I think having that balance between your spirituality and the physical part of it, like understanding that spiritually there's so much more than us. There's a bigger picture always. But then physically acknowledging the fact that you do have emotions, like your ego is going to come into play, your pride is going to come into play. It's going to come in, and like everyone was saying in the panel, you're going to be like, who are you talking to about I'm going to bow down to you? Like, you're going to feel some type of way. And even like in the scripture with his father saying, like, you're saying me and your mother are going to bow down to you, I'm confused. But he ended up just being like, you know what, I'm just going to observe and see where this goes, because this is something that I don't understand. To acknowledge the fact that you feel a certain way and you don't understand something, but you're going to sit back and try to find an answer instead of, make any impulsive decisions, you know, just to have that balance between that, to be like, okay, I am human, but I'm also a spiritual being as well. And I have to have that balance and understand that in order to, it's all about having that balance, because it's hard to be one way and the other. Like, it's impossible.
Fires in the chat for that one. Fires in the chat, Sevens. I'm going to try to remember the one point I wanted to make because Abby brought forth so much. But if you haven't, make sure you've liked, subscribed, comment if you're enjoying this panel. What I love about what you shared, Abby, and I feel like I'm already starting to lose it, which I'm like, no, the spirit. Okay, you talked about understanding that we don't understand the spirituality fully. That just takes me right back to Job, where he was like going through his trials and tribulations, and he was like, I literally don't understand. And then the God of Israel is going at Job, like, do you know who numbered the stars? Do you know how the earth was founded? And like, as I'm reading, I'm like, no, no, no. And I'm sure Job was like, no, no, no. Like, we really don't understand. But is there a way that we can kind of like submit ourselves to that? Like, I don't understand everything. So let me make sure that I have that self-awareness, like you said, Abby, understanding that we all have strengths and weaknesses, and someone having more doesn't make me less valuable. I'm just different. And then how can we remain open to understanding we don't understand what things are spiritually, and asking, honestly, probably asking the God of Israel for guidance. Like Tamar said, fasting and prayer is the way to probably progress that. Yeah, this is so insightful. I'm loving this.
Yeah, and even to like that point as well, Like going, like we hear this all the time, but literally just go to the God of Israel. It's shown so many times. I remember who brought up the point, but literally the God of Israel is the most resilient out of all beings, and he's always compassionate, he's always forgiving. And even though we're stubborn, even though we show over and time again that we're going to, kind of go left or right, he still finds a way to have that compassion, that understanding, and to literally to understand that the God of Israel will have that for you, and to be like, listen, God of Israel, I'm coming to you with all the raw emotions that I have right now. You could say I have rage within me or hatred within me towards this person. And he'd be like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I have this emotion. I'm feeling this. I'm going through this. I don't fully understand it. I would like some clarity, to just simply like go into the God of Israel and be like, this is what I have. And a lot of times, well, most of the times, the God of Israel is not going to judge you on that. He's going to be like, I understand, you know?
No, Samson, did you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna interject. I
Yes.
feel like I don't know. I have an itchy bone that wants to play a panel's advocate. Right? So because what crossed my mind was the fact that he told a dream for a reason, right? He told everyone for a reason. He could have held it back. He could have, as we all mentioned before, hold your dreams back. You don't need to tell everyone your business. But I think there's a dichotomy where sometimes you have to, or sometimes you just feel like it's right to share. And at that point, it's not really up to you if someone receives it right or not. There's this. If the message is for them, it'll be for them. They'll take it. As the father did, he observed it with humility, stepped back, and actually just said, "Hey, let's see how this plays out." But in that context, in that story, it's one of those things where resilience, as we talked about before, is through taking action. He took the action of telling the dream, shared what he saw because he felt like he could share it in confidence with the people he loved. If they receive it, they receive it. If they don't, they don't. But that's when this test of resilience starts, and then you begin that journey. But that's like one of the panel's advocate. It may not be all on the same path, but I see like there's always a time where perhaps you need to share and perhaps just test to see what happens. Or maybe it's not time to share. Let's hold back and wait until the proper time comes.
Yeah, I think I just want to add to that. I think it's kind of crazy too, because like the first dream, he was just saying, he didn't say that y'all were bowing down, they're bowing down to him. He just said that he's going to be lifted up, he's going to be higher than everyone. And his family took that as, he's trying to be better than us or something like that. And I feel like he didn't say it in a way that y'all going to be bowing down to me. I'm over y'all. I'm above y'all. He said it in a humble way. He just telling them his brother, his sisters, the dream. Like a simple dream. It's something that's as simple as that, and they took it to a whole nother level. And I think that's where it kind of gets tricky, because if you can't confide in your family, and they trying to hate, like you can't expect your family to hate on you and to conspire against you, because that's like, dang, like. So I think, and then when he told his pops about they were going to be bowing down to him. It's just they took it to a whole nother level as well. And I think it's just like you can't win with that. You can't prepare someone to be betrayed by their family. So it's
but just think though, as you even mentioned, it's like, guys, we're gonna go on a trip, sailing across the sea, and Jeremiah, you're gonna be the head of the ship. You just told people that. You just told them, and then everyone perceived it as, hey, what? Yeah. He's gonna be moving the rails and telling everyone, giving orders and stuff. Yeah. It's like everyone perceived it differently. He just told them what he saw. Yeah. So that's when the test of resilience comes, because it came from a good place, And I think that's another side. Now, in terms of being open, you can't control. I personally think you can't control that. If people receive the message and it sits with them, awesome, enjoy it. You. If they don't like it, well, there's a cool saying I personally love. It resonates with me. It's hard. It's easier said than done. But it's what was it? Yeah. If sometimes when you're doing something right, you're going to have people that don't like you. Sometimes when you're winning, if you're not winning, or sorry, if you don't have people that don't like you, then you're not doing something. Or if you're not, my bad.
Oh yeah. It's like,
you know what I'm saying though. You're gonna have haters anyways, right? No matter what you do, if you're doing something great, it's eventually people are going to come with you. People are going to hate you, but that's okay. And not all messages are for everyone else.
Yeah.
Before we get to our next scripture, I want to say I really appreciate that point, Samson, because for me reading, it's always been like, why would Joseph do this? And I always attribute it to like his youthfulness. But what I love about what was said just now is like being truthful to who you are and how you feel. I mean, I even feel that a lot in Abby's comment about just like bearing it all before the God of Israel, because one thing that I will say is resilience is not easy. Sometimes you don't know how your situation is going to turn out. And in the life of the Israelite, the afterlife is more important, right? So your life, when I think about the prophets, the ending wasn't always pleasant. But one thing that I've noticed is when you are going through those trials and tribulations and you have that raw sadness, that raw anger, and you turn to the God of Israel, there's a bond that is formed. There is faith that is formed. Like it truly becomes an opportunity to deepen the relationship with the God of Israel. And I always go back to the parent child or even any relationship. You know, if it's Passover and my little cousin and I are chopping it up, eating at the feast, like it's cool, it's cute, like we're bonding. But if my little cousin came to me crying and was telling me like I'm going through this trial and tribulation and I gave her advice, like something about that has now changed our relationship forever. That bond is now deeper. I don't know if it's trauma bonding, whatever it is, something about it is deeper. And so I just want us to keep that in mind. Like resilience gives you the opportunity to form a stronger bond with the God of Israel, because that sadness, sometimes my prayers when they are sad, they feel more powerful and raw than when I'm happy. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's good. That's just the truth. But with
Yeah.
that, we still have, oops, go ahead,
Sorry.
Abby.
I would just like to say, like, to the point you were saying, one, and also Jeremiah as well, like, the fact that, like, in Joseph's story, like, he came to somebody that, like, people that he loves and he trusts. And like Samson said, it came from like an innocent place. It wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna rule you guys, what's up? No, it was like, hey, I had this dream. And even for him, it seemed like he's like, I don't know what's going on, but this is what I got. Can somebody tell me what's going on? And everyone's like, ugh. Like, that's such a crazy response, because it kind of makes you feel crazy. And also, going back to the other point that was made, is like being authentic to yourself and being like, listen, this is what I got. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. And also, like Samson said, how do they receive the message? You know? So, thank you, Felicia, for your donation. And so it's just like how you receive the message is like, it is what it is. And it really puts your life in perspective. Like it put his life in perspective. Who's there for you and who's not. And it's crazy because a lot of the times you would think your blood family is going to be that's going to stick by you always. But sometimes the God of Israel's like, actually, I have to show you something. And I'm gonna have to bring you somewhere else. And it's so heartbreaking because it's, especially when you build that love, you build that trust, or you have that love and trust naturally, and it gets broken in a place you don't expect it to be broken. It pushes you to be resilient because now it kind of shatters you, and you have to figure it out after that point. You're like, okay, what do I do now? Like my perspective has changed. My world is completely different. Like, what do I do now? You know?
No, I love that. And Xavier Brown is echoing our sentiments. You know, he had to share his dream with his family, the ideal, but it was received wrong. But regardless, the God of Israel got him through. He brought order out of chaos. And I love to see that. So we're going to skip ahead because we are having really good conversation. This might turn into a part 2, y'all. It might turn into a part 2. So make sure y'all ready, okay? Because we might have to schedule the next one. But I want to go ahead and jump into Daniel's beginning. So moderator, can we jump to slide 7 for me? And can I get a new reader? We're gonna look at the
I got you.
Thank you.
A Tale of Two Dreamers. Daniel 1, verse 3 to 17. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, as skillful in all wisdom, cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, such as had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning, and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and the wine which he drank. So nourished them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Is that Michelle, right?
Thank you, Cameron. And we also had a donation come through. Thank you so much, James Gibbs. So appreciate your support. But what I love about this scripture, and I'm trying to remember without seeing it. Moderator, can we pull it up just one more time? Okay, yes. So, just as a background, this is, of course, when Judah is seized by King Nebuchadnezzar. And so he's asking for children, the best of the best of those that were enslaved, to come before his palace and learn the tongues of the Chaldeans, basically trying to claim, okay, the best of the best within Israel. And automatically, I see someone said it earlier, it was either Abby or teacher Tamar, but I see that we are set apart. Like Israel is always, always, always set apart. Whether we are living free in our own land or enslaved, like there's just something special about us. And I think that's really encouraging when we look at the history of our people as Jacobites, as quote unquote black people in the Americas, Caribbean. Like we are a resilient people. And a lot of us being alive here today are testaments of our resilience, of surviving through some of the most disgusting atrocities and slavery. So for me, this is a source of pride. It's a source of aspiration to fall into the inheritance that we have as God's people, which is to be the best of the best, like these Israelites were. But panel, any thoughts here?
I would say to add on to that, even on the theme of being set apart, I think it's brilliant that they were set apart at such a young age, which everyone here on the panel could say that they are the same because we've all grown up in this nation. But just being able at such a young age to have your own connection with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and through being set apart, they were able to call upon him. They were able to have confidence in who they are and their culture. And even looking at the journey of both, Daniel and Joseph, because they were set apart and had that spiritual connection at such a young age, it allowed them to be resilient throughout their life. So I think like another factor of resilience is not just making a mental decision to choose to push past hard times, but I think resilience is actually like almost a gift and a privilege, and just, I don't know, something not to be taken lightly, something that's woven in your inward parts through spirituality. I think because a lot of the time resilience goes against logic, it goes against reason. Sometimes the flesh is even too weak to be resilient. But the fact that you come out of hard times and hard situations, that could only be spiritual. And that could only happen with the true and living God. Because a lot of people in this day and age, sometimes they can't be resilient. Sometimes the dark times is literally just the reality of their lives. Sometimes there really is no light at the end of the tunnel and no overcoming hard times. But as Israelites, and even having our connection with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we know that our resilience is guaranteed. Like we have the comfort to know that no matter what dark time we go through, as long as we wait on the Lord, as long as we, educate ourselves on the doctrine and put our hands in and labor for his glory, we know that there is no way that we can ever fall on our face. There's no way we can ever be defeated, but we will always triumph because we have the comfort and the spirituality, the spiritual strength to know that our God will pull us through, even when the flesh is weak, even when reason and logic is telling us that it's just poor outcomes. We know we have an underlying strength that it's definite that we'll get the victory. So I think that's just honestly just an amazing thing to kind of witness and to realize that at a young age they were privileged with that, which the same way we are here today.
Tamara, that's an excellent point. I wanted to just add to that. You mentioned spirituality, and it's for sure, but I also want to add on the principles and values to that, just to make a trifecta of things you need to actually go through and have that resilience. And not only that, like with that trifecta, you're going to add the one special word to kind of your vocabulary throughout your day-to-day life, and that is no. So to say no to some things that might not actually apply to you. Of course, you all grown up in the school that you might want to have us go to a Christmas celebration. You give them the big old NO and keep it pushing, So it's a matter of like using your yeses sparingly and saying no to things that don't apply to your spirituality, your principles, and your values. But yeah, lovely point.
Yeah, no, facts. Both of y'all have been spitting crazy. I'll be real. Yeah, fires in the chats. Sevens, please. I want to be spammed. Fires and sevens. All right. To tag along to what Teacher Tamar was saying, yeah, like even how like we were like children of Israel, literally our recipe had resilience in it. You know, like we were built from that, even from the womb, you know, having a Sabbath friendly diet, you know, we was already filtered from the foolishness, you know, and you can see that from even in the scriptures, you know, what do you mean call on the children that's going to be able to understand this language, that's equipped in science and arts and all this stuff? Like we're calling on the children, you know, like it's crazy. Like when you think about it, like only our nation would do that, you know, only our nation would do that. And we'd be successful in doing that, you know? But yeah, that's all I wanted to add really. But yeah, it's like our nation is legit, you know, our nation has been legit, you know, for a while. But yeah.
No, I so agree. And if you read this story continuously, you'll see that, Daniel decides not to eat the meats of the kings. He keeps that diet, which again is reminding me exactly what you said, Samson. And he's nourished. He looks better than all the other children. And the king is inquiring and he finds that the Israelite children are the best out of them all. So we see that favor that comes out of this. So
Yeah.
with that said, go ahead,
I'm
Ev.
sorry. I just like to
You're sick.
also say, like Tamar was saying, the things that are built within us naturally as Israelites, alongside resilience, is like as much as we hear how our people are very stubborn, and we hear it a lot in a negative way, I see also in these stories how it's used in a positive way, and I guess resilience would be the word to replace stubborn. So it's just like even for Job in his story as well, um, like just that feeling of like I don't know what's going on and the world is crumbling around me, but there's something within me that's saying stay the course. Like I literally can't be anywhere else. Like I just don't know how to be anywhere else. Just stay the course. That's all I feel in my bones, my spirit, my everything. So even that, like to use to, like I was saying before, to have that balance, to even though you have maybe a negative side or dark side, whatever it may be, to find that side, accept that side, and to use that for good can help you so much. So you may be like, yeah, I'm really stubborn, whatever, but then you can turn it into resilience, just like that. To be like, yeah, like Daniel, like you said before, he was stubborn to eat the meat and whatever the king was providing, and he said, I'm gonna stick to my side of the table over here, and he was good. Like just to have that, to use that and to stay the course and to stick with the God of Israel, even if some part of you is like, I don't know what's going on right now, but within me this is the way that I'm going, just to have that, within you.
No, I love everything that's being said, and I think it segues really great into slide number 10 because I'm starting to hear some things come up. I'm seeing it in the chat, but I want to just kind of ask the question, get those tangibles. I like that you said that, Jeremiah. Tangibles, things that we can actually do or have. What do you feel makes someone resilient? I know the panel, and I think Auntie Tina echoed the sentiments. Like it definitely starts with the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. If we serve him, we inherit some type of resilience. But what are some of the other ideas, points that you think make someone resilient?
I'll go as far as to start with, I'll go as far as to start with acceptance of the journey that you're on. That right there is the first step because you wouldn't be able to actually test whether you're resilient or not unless you actually take those first steps. I like to always, I don't know, what comes to my mind is like playing on the playground. You go around and you jump from monkey bar to monkey gym or whatever, and you're playing tag, and you might get hurt, but then you're recognizing that you're playing and you're going through that motion, that little journey there. So you get back up and you keep going, right? So I like to at least start with that, if anything. Just being willing to get up, go, and just accept the journey that you're on and take it on like full-heartedly and with faith going forward.
I would say like this might be kind of cliche, but like just being fearless Especially like, preparing to fail in a way, like not like what's the saying? Like, you do your best and let God be your hand on the rest. Prepare for the worst. You pray for the rest and God will handle the best or something like that. I probably butchered it, but yeah, I'm just saying like that what comes to mind when it comes to resiliency. Also like yeah, like getting back up like a boxer, or even like on a team. Also like to say, add on to what Samson was saying. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, let God do the rest. Okay, thank you. um, but yes, so I was about to say that also like when it comes to like getting back up, just I guess like reminding yourself why you're doing it. Like I know like sometimes um if you ever heard like them like people in the war, like they bring like that little like locket or like the babe they will find it for back home or something like that. I always like sometimes I like to think about like scripture, like you do like a daily scripture and like remind you like why you're going through the journey. Why you being resilient for. I feel like that would also be helpful to be resilient.
I like that scripture tip, because sometimes I think it's nice to step outside of ourselves and to look at our lives and give ourselves advice that way. Like, I think when you're in it, the emotions can take a hold of you, and the impulsives, the ideas that come to mind can be wild. But I think, like, if you look at yourself, okay, if this was a story of what I'm going through in the scriptures, what could I do that would make me think the God of Israel will hear this person? The God of Israel will help them. And what would I do that would maybe make me go like, you're going down the right path. Like, this is not going to end well. I think that mindset really helps. But something that Samson and Cameron both mentioned is like the monkey bars and like being able to start. And it's funny to me because I would never go on the monkey bars because I was like, I don't want to break my arms. I don't want to go on a cast. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But when you don't do it, like you mentioned, Samson, you can't test yourself. Like, one thing that I learned, I was listening to the Idea Cast podcast, and they were saying, like, we must remember that resilience is not fixed. You can build upon it. And when I think about what Teacher Tamar said, like, resilience is the God of Israel, we have to continue to build on that relationship that we have him in order to gain that resilience. But it's not going to happen if we don't try. It's not going to happen if we give up. It's not going to happen if we're afraid of what will happen, like me with the monkey bars.
Yeah.
And you,
It's a,
Sam?
it's funny you mentioned that. This is another like important part to even recognize. I remember I said journey. Joseph's on a big journey. Daniel went on a journey. Your journey could start the day of. It could be like just one day, and your resilience could start with you getting out of bed and not putting the snooze alarm on, All right, now going directly to the shower and getting ready for the day. All right, now make sure you leave the house on time. Yeah, I want to watch another show or I want to watch another episode. Perhaps putting your phone down just for a second longer, staying up a bit longer than you need to just to finish something else. But like it's normally little wins. And when you stack little wins on, you could compound those little wins into a resilient streak that will serve you into the future. But another thing that I also wanted just to touch on was the concept of healthy reminders, having that one strict scripture, having your why set out, just so you know that, hey, along this journey, although it's going to be long, or although you're at the beginning of it, you still have that key point or that key part you're looking at. But yeah, awesome points, guys.
No, absolutely. I wanted to add. First, I want to thank Albert Crump for the donation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Fire in the chat. Fire in the chat. Salute to you. I wanted to add, as far as like the resilience and practicing resilience, regard like for me personally, the back of my mind, I think, always think about like David, or obviously David wasn't perfect. There wasn't that many people that was perfect in the God of Israel's eyes, but I feel like it doesn't hurt to at least aim for it and try to do your best as far as for the God of Israel in day-to-day life as being an Israelite, because there's a lot of temptation that comes with it. And I think when like I've done this ever since, like, I don't even know, like probably since I was in high school maybe, and thinking like, would David, how would David feel about this? What would David do? Or, anyone in the Bible, really. Not, it doesn't have to be David, but my go-to is just David, but it could be anyone in the Bible, any of our forefathers. And I'm like, dang, would he do this? How would he attack the situation? And I kind of like move and like, work my way through life as far as like that. And I'm trying to be like him. At least I can do is do my best and work my way and please the God of Israel or whatnot. He's like the basis. He's like the basis of what I want to do in my life type stuff. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
No,
And
go ahead,
go
Tamar.
ahead. Okay. Thank you, Lindia, for the donation. But also what you said, Rachel, about not being timid. I feel like that also sent me into like a spiral of thoughts. Because I think resilience is definitely, like we mentioned, the God of Israel and the connection that we have through him, we are given that resilience. But also it's about perseverance, like our own personal perseverance and bravery, because we can see that you can't be resilient without those things, even though you have the God of Israel. Because even in the times of David and Goliath, he's like, I need at least one, just one to step forward. I'm going to need somebody to be brave here so I can show my power. I'm going to need somebody to speak up and do something so I can come through. And even like with Daniel, him being like, you know what, we're not going to eat that. And it's like, this is what the king sent. So you could be put to death. You can be like, there's so many punishments that can happen here with you refusing the king. But him being like, you know what, I'm going to hold on to my culture. I'm going to have unwavering faith. And through that, I know I'm going to be resilient. I think that's something that is just absolutely insane, because I think it's something that I do still need to work on and like adapt to in this present day and age. Because a lot of times when I was younger, it's like, even if I'm around a lot of people and let's just say it's something that I can't eat and I'm at a party, I'm like, oh, I already ate before I came. Like, I don't get into that conversation because I'm like, it's long. I don't want to do all that. I ate before I came. Instead of just saying I don't eat those things, I ate before I came. I'm good. I'm stuffed. But nowadays, being 21 and everything, I'm very much vocal about like, you know what? I don't go out on Friday nights because I have morning service. I'm going to atonement. I'm going to Passover. These are my dietary restrictions. Like, now I'm very much vocal. But once again, at like their young age of like Daniel and Joseph, like they were vocal since day one. Since day one, we don't do that. We're sticking to our culture. We're sticking to our faith, no matter who they're in front of. So I feel like that also plays into resilience of just having that bravery, which is very hard. Having that perseverance, having that strength, and only through us having that can the God of Israel really give us the resilience that we have earned through him.
I love that. Fires in the chat all the way through. Is
And
my
I would,
audio work? Do you guys hear feedback?
no, I can hear you.
I did a little bit.
Just a
Okay.
bit. Yeah.
I'm going to try to talk through. Okay.
Um,
Can everyone make sure they're on mute? Okay. Hopefully that works. If not, we'll let us know. But I was gonna say fires in the chat for that, Tamar. That was so much. Your spiral turned me into a spiral. And I'm like, again, trying to hold on to my thoughts. But I love what you mentioned about bravery, right? Like it takes a lot of bravery to go through this journey. And something that I think is so beautiful, even about what you shared with your own personal story, which I relate to a lot, is just you see the growth. Like when you go through resilience, it allows you to hold new characteristics. It allows you to evolve as a person. And so I think that's something that you can even look forward to when you're going through the struggle, is that this is going to change you for the better if you make the right decisions. The next thing I want to briefly shout out before we get to our next scripture is Auntie Tina. She mentioned like three principles for resilience, which align with something we did in Atlanta, talking about just kind of growth in our themes here. So I love that she called this out. But the three principles to have for resilience are what we've said: personal accountability, putting spirituality first, and discipline. I think that hits on everything that we've talked about. You have to have the self-awareness to be brave, to choose to be resilient, right? You have to have the personal accountability to know when you are not meeting the standards that you need, and putting spirituality first, that discipline, constantly staying in touch with the God of Israel. He can't help you if he doesn't know what's going on in your life. Like, pray and do not cease to pray, because he has a lot of children. I always say the God of Israel has a lot of children, and it's not a competition, but just do what you got to do to make sure that your voice is heard. Okay, make sure your voice is heard. I want to go ahead and pull up slide 11, and I remembered the last point I
there's
want to
a point
make.
that I wanted to
Go
add.
ahead,
Sorry to
Abby. Go
interrupt.
ahead. No, you're so good.
I'd like to also say, like, even with, like everyone said, bravery and just being fearless and yes, all those things. I think also like throughout the journey after like taking those risks and being as brave as you are, I think also being very vulnerable and honest can help you with resilience. Like you were saying, there's times where you wonder why your prayers when you are sad or you're in a really hard place hit harder than they do if you're like happier or something like that. Because I feel like that is you're most vulnerable, you're most honest. You're like, okay, I'm really down, I'm really in it right now, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Like it's really hard to be honest with yourself and to be honest with the God of Israel and say, hey, I'm not at my best right now, or hey, I'm terrified right now and I have no idea where this is going, but I'm gonna trust in you at this. Because I don't, because you get to the point where you're like, I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't even know. And I'm feeling so many things all at once. But you know what? I'm giving it to you, God of Israel. I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. I'm taking these risks and I have no idea where it's going to lead me. I can really just fall and not get back up. I don't know. It's terrifying. Like, it was mentioned before, I forgot exactly, but in the scriptures, when somebody was going to meet a king and they're like going before the king without, it's a risky thing to do. Um, so just to be like, listen, this is what it is. This is what I'm going through. And just in that self pushes your bravery as well. And what Tamar was saying as well about like going from saying, "Oh, I'm full," to "This is who I am." It's like showing up for yourself, and that in that way that it kind of I feel like it makes the God of Israel proud to be like, "Hey, this is me." Not and understanding not the whole world is not everyone's gonna understand that. Not everyone's gonna accept that, and to be like, this is me, this is what I got, I'm standing up for myself, I'm showing up for myself, this is who I be, who I am, and I'm going to do that because I'm not going to like from my who I am for you because you're uncomfortable or you don't understand. To stand up for yourself and said, this is who I am, I'm here right now, this is my God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. To be that way gives you so much, it pushes you even further, it gives you more bravery than you think you have, and it inspires other people more than you know.
Fire in the chat for that. Mic drop, mic drop, mic drop.
Is it
So
just
many.
me? I feel
Go
like
ahead.
Abby just relates it on a personal level really well.
Yes.
I just
I'm like
does it.
playing back the times where I was like struggling, like it's vivid. Like she calls to mind the memories as she speaks. I love it. I love it. Guys, we're definitely going to need to do a part 2 for sure. But moderator, let's pull up slide 11. We're an hour in, just starting to get to the tribulation parts of Joseph and Daniel. But I want to talk about the trials of the pit. So we know Joseph had a time where, his brothers actually threw him in the pit. Thankfully, they decided not to kill him. But I also want to just talk about the pit from a metaphorical stance. Like what happens when you're going through the tough times? What can you do? Because I think Joseph and Daniel show excellent examples of what those resilient tools are. Can I get another reader? Jeremiah, I see your hand.
Boy, yep. A tale of two dreamers. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand.
So again, here I see that favor that Joseph had in the beginning of his life when he was separated, still kind of following through here as well. You see that he really takes his time and his trial, so like being sold into slavery and having to serve this master, as an opportunity to show forth his strengths, his talents, and his gifts, that integrity, and him being his authentic self, he's really able to make the most of the situation. And I think that is key to resilience as well as your mindset, right? If I'm going to build that strength, if I'm going to get through this, I don't know where it's going to go. Being very real, sometimes you don't know if this is going to end up good. What can I make out of this current situation? What meaning can I draw from this to get me through? I think that is a really powerful tool to have. Any other thoughts before we get to our next slide? Alrighty. If not, we'll go ahead and pull up the next slide, moderator. I believe it's 12. And I'll go ahead and read for this one. And so just as some context, so Joseph is working in the house of his masters, and his master's woman, he's seeing this man, he's goodly, he's got all these talents, and she decides, I want him. Joseph, being a very integral man, is like, no, you're the wife of my master. I'm not going to do that, but we're going to see what comes out of this, okay? So, and she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. That which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. For me, I love this scripture, and I knew I had to share it because one thing that my dad has always highlighted when we kind of go through this scripture is that even in prison, at Joseph's low moment, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob was with him. And so I want you to remember that. Even when you are in your lowest moments, if you call upon our God, he will be with you. So hold on to that and keep it close. Panel, what are our thoughts? We got some comments coming in.
What I find very cool about the whole journey between even Daniel and Joseph is the fact that the pit, as you mentioned, is involved, and you've all experienced it through life. I'm pretty sure everyone can relate, where you start a journey, and as you start a journey and you initiate that mission, you always are approached with some sort of disruption in life. It's like, again, we go back to the monkey bars. You climb it. The first time you go on, it's good. The next time you fall and you hurt yourself, oops, okay. But then you get back up, right? But it's that pit. I find that pit represents the low point in which disruption is meant to happen. That time period, that phase is just the bad thing before the good stuff happened. I love saying things always get worse before they get better. And this is like the perfect example of it. And to get to that better point, you really have to have resilience to actually climb out of the pit, and from there reap the rewards when you get out, if anything. But yeah.
I'd also like to add, as well as, to understand that there will always be an up and there will always be a down, no matter what in your life. And throughout the ups and downs is to learn the lesson in between, and to understand the lesson in between. So even though, I guess, to understand, I feel like in the scriptures we see a lot where it's like they get brought up really, really high and they get knocked down really, really low. And in a way, it's like, it kind of it humbles you. It teaches you humility as well, to be like, yes, I can be brought up very, very high, but I can also be knocked right down. So I have to not get too into my head or let my ego, just get too much, or forget about the God of Israel, because sometimes that happens. People get all their riches, or they get to a high status, and then they forget where it all came from, where it all started, why it's even happening, or who they even are, and they forget themselves. And then the God of Israel is like, okay, I'm gonna have to rein you back down, and just be like, hey, listen, Listen, don't forget, don't lose yourself now. Do not lose yourself within your riches, within all the good things. Don't forget about me, because I can take that right away. Remember where it came from. Remember where home is. Remember.
I love that, Abby. And when you say that, immediately I'm taken back to Job again when he was like, the God of Israel giveth and he taketh away. Like that humility stays almost so constant in my mind. And I think sometimes you can be a detriment because you're like, things are going so good in my life. Like, when is the next pitfall going to happen? It kind of ruins it. But again, I think that's something I've learned in this adult life recently that was hard to come to terms with, but I feel like I'm adjusting, is that life is always going to life. Like, there's always going to be ups and there's always going to be down. But what's your constant? What is going to keep you going through? Like, how are you putting your spirituality at the forefront regardless of what is going on through your life? Because it's never going to end. There's always going to be a reason. There's always going to be an excuse. But what you see through both Joseph and Daniel's life is this understanding and appreciation for the God of Israel. And just like you said, Abby, that realness, like, this is where I'm at. What can I make the most out of it? Absolutely. Cameron and Jeremiah.
Can I add a quick point? Oh,
Go ahead, Cameron.
okay, I'm good. Okay. Quick point about Abby's point about the humility of the matter. I would think like another thing about being resilient is like I said earlier, like being prepared to fail. Because I feel like sometimes, like even in life, like say you apply for a job, maybe that job wasn't for us. If you get denied, maybe there's something else. Like even like to Joseph, right? Like say for instance, if his brothers wasn't hating on him for no reason, like they couldn't go anywhere else with the wives or anything like that, and they didn't throw him in the pit, he won't be able to basically lay the groundwork for us to be in Egypt, and Moses and stuff like that, and where the laws and the commandments came from, and working with the Pharaoh. That would have never happened if that didn't happen, you know.
Jeremiah, I want to jump to you, but I love that point, Cameron. Like, if we think big picture, both of Daniel and Joseph ended up getting into positions of power. Like, they start off the outcast, the one that's separated, but those qualities make them stellar men that end up being able to have some type of power in Israel. And I think we, especially as young people in this generation, can use that as inspiration, as scary as that feels. Jeremiah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to your point when you said, well, two of your points when you said Job, when he said, the Lord taketh and he giveth and taketh away, and to when your dad's point about how God of Israel was still with him while he was in prison. And I think prison is like the most lowest of the lowest. Like, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And I think that's the only like that's not the only time, but that's like one of the most important times to trust in the God of Israel, to petition him and to praise to him. And I think keeping him in that situation, or even as Joseph, he had no other choice but to keep that at the forefront, because he was already at the lowest hell. Like, there's also a psalm, I want to say, I think it was like Psalms 59 or Psalms, I can't remember. Anyways, but it's basically saying the God of Israel delivered me from the lowest hell, and he still allowed me to persevere. And I think that's also like, you see that obviously in Joseph, and you see that in Daniel as well. They were in the pits. They were in the pits. They were at the lowest that they could ever go, with animals, at the lowest. So I think just trusting in him is obviously, you have to keep that as a forefront, because you don't have anything else, nothing else.
If I could even like add on to that, I would say a little bit off topic, but not really off topic. I would say that like a thought that came to mind is that people think that the second that you start to serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, life becomes sunshine and roses and daisies and butterflies. But I feel like when you actually dedicate your life unto him and actually start doing the work and, have unwavering faith like Joseph and Daniel did towards the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I feel like that's when the true war and the true journey begins. Because like it says in the Bible, you will be hated for his name's sake. So people will try to, they'll prey on your downfall. They'll try to give you stumbling blocks and roadblocks so that you never reach your destiny, which is why even once again, as us, being chosen and favored because we have grown up in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's family. We know to take this as life lessons and be selective because each of us don't know what our destinies are yet. But there will be a million stumbling blocks towards their destinies. But we know that once you dedicate your life and you continue to have the unwavering faith, that once again, we know that resilience is guaranteed for us because of that spirituality and that spiritual strength, that we know that we'll always get the triumph and nothing will ever, derail us or come in our path. Because with other people, maybe if they're not selective, their journey will get derailed, but we know that nothing can derail the will and the plan of the true and living God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because, this woman was trying to derail it for Joseph, everyone trying to derail it for Daniel, but yet we saw who they became in the end and the power that they held in the end. So I feel like that just once again gives us this comfort that, it doesn't mean that our lives are going to be perfect just because we have the greatest God. It actually means that there's going to be a lot more people that envy us because they wish that they had what we have. And we have to just be on our P's and Q's about certain stuff like that.
I love that, Tamar, because it highlights that personal accountability item. Like, this is not going to be easy, but we have to remember our inheritance. We have to remember our future generations, because what Elder Shadrach has done is amazing. It hasn't been done for hundreds of years. Like, he restored our culture. But I think we must realize that when we are not resilient, when we choose to turn away from our God, we risk giving this beautiful culture, this spirituality, our inheritance. We risk not giving that to our children's, and they could end up being lost. So I love, love, love how you highlighted that personal accountability. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
No, I was just agreeing. Make
Yes.
sure to spam the fires in the sevens. We're having a lot of
Yes.
good discourse, a lot of meaty discourse.
I
Fires.
love it. I love it. Fires in the chat.
Yeah, and like everyone said, literally, like our elder Shadrach, the best example ever for resilience, because it's like you get a message from the God of Israel that you're supposed to lead a people, like lead a people you don't even know yet. Like, and it's just like, with the, like, it's just so crazy. You're supposed to lead these people. You're supposed to learn this whole doctrine and then teach it. Like, it's so much to take on. And the fact that he took on that message and throughout it all just continued to stay the course, even when the ups were ups and the downs were downs, he stayed the course regardless. It didn't matter. And he always saw the bigger picture. He always sees the bigger picture and does what is best for Israel. Is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And that's just inspiration right there.
I love it. I love it. And to add on, Abby, I do want to highlight this comment in the chat by Xavier Brown because I love it. It says, "It doesn't matter your estate, humility will bring favor and prosperity. Trust the God of Israel to take you through the process." So trust in him. One thing I will say is when you go through I'm going to call it the Job era, right? Where life is going crazy and you literally don't know why, you start building. If you do what you're supposed to do and you put your spirituality first, you will start to build trust with the God of Israel. He will have trust in you because he will see how you seek after him, and you will start to trust him. I mean, brethren will say things and you're like, how did you know that? They'll give you a scripture and it's exactly what you need. Like, you will start to see such a strong presence in his life. But it's just like James, draw nigh unto God and he will draw nigh unto you. If you're not drawing close to him, he can't help you out. So we must remember that in the life of an Israelite. All right, we got 8 minutes. I'm going to skip to slide 18, moderator. I'm going to try and read it through, and then I want to get my panel's closing thoughts because we have barely scratched the surface. But I'm seeing that people want a part 2. I saw 3, 4 even. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm going to read this scripture. This is going back to Daniel talking about his trials and tribulations, very similar to Joseph. Daniel was in a high position. There were other presidents, princes around, but he was the most favored. He was the best out of all of them. And like Samson said, he had a bunch of haters. Doing something right, you're going to get haters thrown at you. So they conspired against him and they wanted him to serve a god that King Darius did. So let's start off with his pit, right? Verse 16. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thou God, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. That's G move. That's a G move right there. He didn't even know he was alive. He's like, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and hath shut the lion's mouth that they have not hurt me. For so as much before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. And the lions had the mastery of them, and brake all their bones in pieces, o ever they came at the bottom of the den. Wow. Wow. Everything that we talked about is here, y'all. It's here. Like, our personal accountability impacts our generation. We saw it for the other side. Generation wiped out in one, right? And Abby, when she mentioned about walking in your truth, your authenticity, other people see that. They see your light. The king said, I hope your God will deliver it. Your God will deliver it. Like, that is so powerful to me. But we're almost at time, so I want to go around the room and get closing thoughts. Cameron, can you start our closing thoughts off first?
Sure thing. Resilience is virtue. Patience is a virtue, and we can't take it for granted for what the time we have. So keep it.
I love it. I love it. Can't take it for granted. Absolutely. Teacher Tamar.
I would say that with examples like Daniel and Joseph, we're very privileged in this day and age to have the Bible to see, okay, there was a million miracles done. So if I follow this criteria, I can say that there'll most likely be a miracle for me. But for them that didn't have, the physical copy of the Bible at that time, for them to just have that unwavering faith, I think is just remarkable. So I think for us, having the privilege that we have today of having the Bible, we should just, I guess, recognize that privilege. And also, like we read at the beginning of this panel, to wait on the Lord, put him at the forefront of every single thing that you do, and you cannot go wrong. And also be patient, because it won't happen on your time, but it will happen when the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob wills it. And do not be idle and don't be stagnant, but be brave and be overtly an Israelite, be brave and just continue to serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in spirit and in truth, and in any setting that you walk into.
I love it, Tamara. There's so many things that could be said. So I'm like, but I'll let the panel go next. Samson, what are your closing thoughts?
I don't want to say too much. I feel like everyone's very touched on all the good points we have here. But closing thoughts simply would be let humility be the sheath to your ego and keep fighting on. So other than that, peace.
Spoken word snaps, snap, snap, snaps for that. Absolutely. Abby?
Yeah, I would say for resilience, like everyone said, just keep the God of Israel number one, always. Find that inspiration for you as well, because sometimes it's easy to forget, it's easy to lose yourself, especially as an Israelite in a world like this. So to find that inspiration, to find even just going into the scriptures and having that one person in the Bible that you can relate to hardcore and be like, listen, if they could do it, so can I. Something that pushes you and inspires you, that just keeps you afloat and reminds you that you can do this, because you can get lost in your head all the time and forget who you truly are. So have that inspiration, have that zeal, that hope, that faith in the God of Israel, that faith and hope in yourself that you can do it, because you can, it's possible. And believing in the God of Israel will send you further than you could ever imagine. So, yeah.
I love it. Jeremiah?
Yeah, I'll say continue to trust in the God of Israel. Walk like your forefathers did, at least try to mimic how they kept the laws and they taught the laws, and and also accept the hard times, and also just keep the God of Israel first at all times.
Absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. My closing thoughts, I just want to remind you about Job's story and that it was a bet. And if you're going through a struggle time right now, I just want you to consider, what if the God of Israel is betting on you? What if he's counting on you to pull through this? What greatness can come out of your latter half? I hope you hold on to that. Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. Be sure to catch the Saturday message happening at 2 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be powerful. But thank you guys. Thank you to my panel, and peace. Have a good night and happy Sabbath.